So yesterday we have discussed about this cycle counting, right? So do you have any questions on that tick? Okay,
Haven't practiced censorship. We'll check and let you know.
that's fine. That's fine. So today I would like to start the procurement. So the first setup I would like to discuss here is P2P cycle, which is nothing but your procure to pay cycle, right? So what is the purpose of this procure to pay cycle is whenever you require any goods or services from the suppliers, that time we need to follow this cycle, which means if Apple Corporation or any other industry starting a business, if they want to procure any materials for their business perspective, whether they procure furniture, whether they procure laptops, monitors, office supplies, or whatever it is, if they want to procure any of those materials from suppliers, not only the materials, we may require some services also, whether it could be a service or whether it could be a goods. We need to follow this procure to pay cycle, which means we are getting the material from suppliers and we need to make the payment to them. So the P2P cycle will start with initially the requisition. Whenever employee requires or office requires any goods or services from the suppliers, that time we will go with requisition creation. So this requisition creation will follow some specific set of approvals team. Whenever we create a requisition, this has to be approved. Then only we will convert this requisition or we will process this requisition into a purchase order. The first step, whenever we require any goods or services from the suppliers, we will create this requisition. And requisition, whenever we create a requisition, approvals are mandatory. So approvals are mandatory. Someone has to approve the requisition before it processing it into a purchase order. Once the requisition is done, let's say for example, we are Apple Corp and we are procuring some materials for our office purpose. We are planning to buy some desktops or laptops. For office purpose, we need some desktops or laptops. So whenever you want to procure these materials, the first step we need to create a requisition. Once the requisition is created, it has to be approved. Here we have different types of approval process for both requisitions and purchase orders. The first one is we can make it as auto approved, or we can have single user as approver or approval group. We have job based, position based, employee supervisor hierarchy. So we have different types of approvals hierarchies available. These are the different types of approval hierarchy. So based on your requirement, you can make this requisition as auto approve, or if you want to assign this to a single user, which means every time when we create a requisition, it has to be approved by the single user. Or you can have an approval group also. Here we will mention list of users. Once A is approved, it will goes to B. Then B is approved, it will goes to C. Like that, if we have multiple users has to approve this requisition, then you need to define all those user names under this approval group. Job based. Based on the job also we can define. Positions also based on jobs and positions also we can define. Or we can define employee supervisor hierarchy. Up to how many levels you want to get the approvals, that information we need to enter it here. We will see what is this approvals and all in our approval class. For now, whenever we require any goods or services, the first thing we need to do is we need to enter the requisition details. Under this requisition details, what we enter, how many items you require, what are the items you require, what is your need by date, and what is your deliver to location. Those are the mandatory information we need to enter in the requisition form. Once the requisition form is submitted, then it will goes to the approval and someone will approve, then it will convert into a purchase order. This purchase order will be taken care by your buyer. Each and every organization will have some list of buyers team. Based on the requisitions which you created, the buyer will comes into the place and he is the responsible to procure any kind of materials. He will have a number of negotiations with your suppliers before procuring the item. Let's say we are starting Apple Corporation and we require 1,000 laptops, for example. So before procuring these 1,000 laptops, here we have one more module called sourcing. In the sourcing module, this buyer will have a negotiations. Okay, so our requirement is to procure 100 desktops or 1,000 desktops, for example. We are starting a new office and we need 1,000 desktops. So before procuring this 1,000 desktops from suppliers, he will have first he will find out what are the suppliers currently we have in our market. So he may contact Dell, he may contact HP, he may contact Lenovo, or he may contact Acer. There are so many vendors are available in the market. So first this buyer will have a negotiation with the suppliers. Okay, so I need 1,000 desktops. What is the price? He will get the quote from Dell, and again he will get the quote from HP. He will get the quote from Lenovo, Acer, and all. So once he received all the quotes from the different vendors or suppliers, he will do some analysis. Okay, I'm getting the quotes from Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Acer, and Dell is providing for some 20,000, HP is saying 21, Lenovo is saying 23, and Acer is saying 24, for an example. So he will do the sum analysis, and also he will not only check for the price, he will check the warranty also, and the market. How was the market for Dell? He will do lot of analysis before procuring this material. Then finally, he will choose one of the supplier and he will award that supplier. We will see what is this awarding and all in our negotiation model, which is sourcing model. Once he award the supplier, then he will create a purchase order against that particular supplier. Before creating a purchase order, there is a sourcing module in between. In this sourcing module, you will have a number of negotiations. What is your price? What is your delivery times? And what is your payment terms? So there are so many parameters. This buyer will have a discussion with the corresponding vendor team, and finally he will choose one of the supplier as a awarding supplier. Once the awarding supplier has been selected, then we will create a purchase order here against that particular supplier. Again, this purchase order also should go for an approvals. Again, we have same kind of approvals. Whatever we have in requisition, the similar kind of approvals we have in our purchase order also. And these are also mandated. For both requisition and purchase order approvals are mandatory. Whenever you create a requisition, that has to be approved. And whenever you create a purchase order also, that has to be approved. Once we create a requisition and it is approved, then the buyer will come into the place. He is the guy who responsible to procure the specific materials. Before procuring the materials, he will have a number of discussions with our supplier. He will do some negotiations and all, which is like bargaining and all. Finally, he will choose one of the supplier as a awarding supplier. Then he will go ahead and create a purchase order in this team. Under this purchase order, he will mention what is the goods we require and how many quantity we require, what is the location, deliver to location we are expecting, and what is the need by date. Those are the important parameters he will enter while creating the purchase order. Once the purchase order is submitted and approved, then the next step is we need to receive the material into our inventory. So receiving will comes into the place. Okay. So we have created a purchase order for 1,000 desktops. 1,000 desktops. Now supplier has sent the materials to our inventory. Now we need to receive the material, which means physically we are receiving the material to our inventory. So whatever the deliver to location you have mentioned in your PO, to that same location, the supplier will send the goods. So once we receive the physical material to our inventory, we need to start receiving those materials. Okay, my supplier has sent this 1,000 desktops to my inventory. Now I would like to receive. Here we have different types of receiving methods: two-way, three-way, and four. So based on your item, whether you wanted to follow the two-way or three-way or four-way, up to you. Based on your item, we will see what is this two-way, three-way, four-way in our procurement classes. Once this receiving is done, we need to make the payment and invoice creation to our supplier. Then we need to create invoice. whenever we receive the material, we need to make the payment to the supplier, right? Before making the payment, we need to create an invoice. Invoice is nothing but for these 1,000 goods, for this 1,000 what is the actual cost we need to pay to our supplier? What is the price? That information we need to enter in the invoice level. Once we create an invoice, we need to make the payment to the supplier, which means so we have received the goods, and in this invoice we have the payment terms also. How soon you wanted to make the payment? Do you want to take 30 days time based on your negotiations? 30 days, 60 days, it is like immediate sometime. So based on your requirement, this buyer will have a negotiations with the supplier, right? At that time, he will confirm the payment terms also. How soon you want to make the payment to the suppliers? Do you want to take 30 days, 60 days, or immediate? Based on the agreed terms, we need to make the payment to the suppliers. Payment is nothing but once the invoice is created, we will make the payment from our bank account, make the payment to the supplier. So both invoice and payment finally has to be transferred to GL. So whatever we created like invoice and payment, finally we have to transfer these balances to GL. Any more questions, team, so far? From requisitions creation to transferring the balances to GL. Any more questions? First, we will create a requisition. It has to be approved. Then we will process that requisition into a purchase order. Once we purchase order is approved, then we will start receiving the material to our inventory. Here we have different types of receiving methods. Once we receive the material, we have to create invoice, which is payable invoice. Payable invoice. Once the invoice is created, again, in case if you wanted to follow any approvals and all, you can follow it here, and it has to be validated and accounted also. Same for payment also. It has to be accounted. Accounted means we are transferring this to GLers. These are the 6-step process. Requisition creation to transferring the balances to GL. Any more questions here, team? Praveen?
So Santosh, here it supports both internal and external.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I would like to execute this entire cycle in our public instance team because we don't have any setups related to purchase orders and receiving and invoicing, payment, GL, nothing we have. So I would like to execute this entire cycle in our public instance using our BU, which is nothing but your standard US1 business unit. Here item I am taking is 15125. And the inventory org I am taking here is 001, which is Seattle. And also the supplier I am considering here as the Lions. So these are the seeded elements I am using to complete this P2P cycle. I am doing it in public instance because we don't have any of the setups related to our custom BU. Later, we will do the same cycle with our custom elements also. So we have our own BU and we will create our own item. We will create our own supplier and we will create all the receiving steps. Everything we will do with our custom objects also. For now, I am using these seeded ones. For your better understanding, I would like to execute this P2P cycle using the seeded elements. Later, we will see with our custom also. If you see here, the step number 1, which is requisition creation and the configuration behind this requisition creation and purchase order creation and configurations behind this purchase order creation and for receiving up to point number 1, 2, 3, this is our part team. Point number 1, 2, 3, which is related to us and creating the invoice, making the payment, and transfer the balances to GL. This will comes under financials. This is not our job. The first three will be on us. The next 3 points has to be taken care by the finance team. But you should aware how the invoice will be created, how the payment will be created, and how those transfer to GL. You should have an idea. But in your real time as a SCM consultant, the creation and purchase order creation and receiving part is based on UT. Whatever the issues you have, that will be taken care by you only on the first three. The remaining 4, 5, and 6 will be taken care by your finance consultant. Any more questions? Now I would like to create the status, requisition status. Whenever I create a requisition, the initial status will be incomplete. Whenever I create a requisition, the initial status will be incomplete. Then it will be changed to pending approval. Then it will be changed into approved. We have only these three: incomplete, pending approval, and approved. If we talk about the purchase order status, it will start with incomplete, then pending approval. Once we provide the approval, it will comes to open. Then it will comes to closed for receiving. Then it will comes to closed for invoicing. And finally it will comes to closed. These are the status for purchase order. So the requisition status, it will start from incomplete, then pending approval because approvals are mandatory. Then finally it will goes to approve. Whereas purchase order status, it will start with incomplete, then it will goes to pending approval. Once we approve it, it will change to open status. Once this is open status, the supplier will send the goods to us. We need to receive them. Once we receive them, it will change the PO status to closed for receiving. Once we receive the goods, we need to make the payment to the suppliers. So which means once we make the payment or once we create an invoice, it will change the status to closed for invoicing and it will change the header status to closed. This is the status of your requisition and purchase orders. Any questions?
So purchase order after pending approval, approved will come or not?
No approval. So once it is
Okay,
approval, it will change to open. There is no
open.
approved status. Okay.
That's the difference. Okay, okay.
It will change to open. Then
Hmm.
once you receive the goods, closed for receiving. Then
Hmm.
once you make the once you create payable invoice, then it will goes for invoicing and close.
Okay.
Now, so this P2P cycle involves multiple modules teams. So first thing we are creating a requisition, right? This will comes under self-service procurement. The requisition whenever we create that will comes under self-service procurement. In case if buyer wants to have any negotiations, that will comes under sourcing module. Buyer will do some negotiations too. So whenever we require any material, buyer will do some negotiations and finally he will choose one of the supplier and with that supplier he will create a purchase order. And purchase order will be creating under purchasing module and the receiving will happen in inventory. Invoice will be created in accounts payables module and payment also will be created in account payables module. and transferring the balances will be under general lecture. So these are the different types of modules we have. Whenever you want to do the P2P cycles, it's tightly integrated with all these modules. Whenever you create a requisition, that will be created under self-service procurement. In case if you want to do any negotiations with the supplier, that will comes under sourcing module. And purchase order will be created under purchasing module. And once supplier has sent the goods to your inventory, the receiving will happen in inventory. Once you receive the material your inventory, we have to create invoice in account payables. Payment also we will create in account payables. Finally, we will transfer the balances to general ledger. So all these are modules we need to deal with whenever you work on the P2P side. Any more questions so far on this P2P side? I would like to execute this entire cycle now in our public instance. Before that, on the theory part, this is very important. If someone asks you what is P2P cycle during your interview process, you should be in a position to tell from requisition creation to transferring the balances to GL. Starting from here to here, you need to explain. Okay, these are the different statuses, and these are the modules which we are going to use now for requisition creation, purchase order creation, and sourcing, receiving, and invoice creation, payment creation, and transferring the balances to GL. We will see this one. Good. Any more questions, Steve?
Santosh, do we have that quotation concept here?
Yeah. I will explain how to create the quotations and all. That will come under sourcing.
Okay.
So suppliers part, Santosh?
Suppliers also will come under procurement only.
Okay.
We will see on day 3 or day 4 how to create a supplier,
Okay.
how to create a supplier in registrations and FPDI and manual. We will see 4 different options we have to create a supplier. We will see all those.
Okay.
Except that API creation, remaining all I will explain.
Mm.
To create a supplier using FPDI, to create a supplier manually, and to create a supplier using registration links, we will see. Okay, so supplier approvals are optional. In procurement, only for requisition and PO approvals are mandatory. Remaining all are optional. Okay, item is optional.
But authorization of that supplier site, that part, anytime you work, Santosh?
Which one?
That internal, external supplier authorizations will be there, right?
Yeah, I will explain.
Okay. For supplier approvals, it's a big part, right?
Yeah, I will explain how to
Okay.
create internal and external supplier registration link. Everything we will see. Okay.
Okay.
So this is like high level of P2P cycle. Let's see how to create this entire cycle in our public instance. Oh, bad time. Can you see this thing?
Today everything is going different.
uh,
Arre.
can't do anything, team.
So all the instances will be gone, or
Yeah, this public instance is currently undergoing schedule maintenance. Maybe it will up after 1 hour or two.
But many customers will be using, right, Santosh, like this if it comes very difficult, right?
No, I don't know how the Oracle is treating. Every time they are providing the instances, suddenly they will do
Ah,
some maintenance. So this is very headache for us.
yeah, that your work will be stopping,
Yeah,
right?
everything will be stopped. We don't have any other option, so we need to wait. It's not like a normal application, right? Everything is based on cloud. They have to
Mm,
provide the instance and all, so we don't have any other options. Every time we are
okay.
relying on them, even though if we send emails or if we have any other communications, they will say just wait for 1 or 2 hours. That's it.
Okay.
What can we do? So So once I complete this P2P cycle, then you will have a clear understanding how it works in Fusion. Then we will start all our procurement configurations. On top of that, we will do our entire cycle with our custom objects also. That's my intention. First, we need to create using our existing objects. Then we will do our own configurations like procurement agents, TAD setups, supplier creation, all this, and receiving setups, receiving parameters, all this. Once we complete, then we will do the similar kind of cycle. So if I don't explain this P2P cycle, then you will not have that much idea. I don't know what to do now. Can we have a session tomorrow, team? Will you guys
Yeah,
available?
yeah. Yeah, we can take Santosh.
Say soon?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Session tomorrow we don't have meeting, right?
Yeah, we don't have that meeting. Yeah, correct.
Then we
Okay.
will continue
Same time
tomorrow.
we can connect Santosh, no problem.
8:45, 8:45.
8:45. Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, team. Sorry for the inconvenience. I don't have
No
No
problem.
problem.
What we will do, this is not in our hands.
Okay. We'll see
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
tomorrow. Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Okay.